Welcome to this week's session of Built to be Heard. This is meant to promote human first visibility in the AI era and the importance of human to human connection, of course. Today's topic is going to be something that I don't feel is talked about enough, and it's this: the stories we learned as children can keep us from being visible. They can actually keep us more invisible. Okay. So I wanted to share with you some of the beliefs that I had as a child or that I heard as a child. And I would encourage you to also kind of reflect on that, because some of the beliefs we had as a child should have an expiration date. Okay. But nobody ever came up to me and said, hey, you know that what you learned as a child, as far as children being meant to be seen but not heard, you don't have to listen to that anymore. Like, that's something I figured out on my own, right? And probably a lot of things that you figured out on your own. But I do think it's important because those beliefs that we learned as a child, those were given to us, of course, with love. They were meant to help us to be more respectful, to be more well behaved, right? They were given to us and spoken to us to be humble, okay? But some of these messages that we heard as a child can actually prevent us from being more visible, maybe from being a keynote, or maybe from moving our companies to the next level up with revenue, whatever the case is. Maybe you're in corporate and you find yourself hesitating to raise your hand to be, get in that promotion pool, whatever the case is. So I would encourage you to ask yourself, and if you're not driving, I would encourage you to write it down. What beliefs did you have or did you hear about as a child that you feel could limit your leadership today? Or maybe you've already figured this out, right? So some of the ones that came to top of mind when I was working on this subject, and I do have three different points that I'm going to address today. But the advice that I was saying that I feel clearly should have an expiration date relate to some of these things that I was reflecting on. And the first one is, as I mentioned, children should be seen but not heard. I heard this a lot. Of course, it was meant with love. It was meant to encourage me to be well behaved. They didn't really have to tell me that too much because I was very shy and introverted anyway. So I was fine not being heard. Okay. The second thing that a lot of us have heard: don't rock the boat. Now, this one I became very aware of it holding me back when I had my first sales job out of college with AT&T, because again, I was trying to like balance out my introversion and making sure that I was able to speak to people so I could solve their problems, because I wasn't going to be able to build a successful sales career with AT&T if I was not speaking, right? Not seeking to serve. So I remember when I would be in team meetings, that phrase would come in my head if I thought about saying something, like, well, don't rock the boat. Yeah. And I really had to get over that, because I realized that if I did not speak out, and, if even if it was a polarizing point of view, or, something, some piece of information, or maybe I was respectfully disagreeing with someone, I had to learn that it was okay to rock the boat, because that was what was going to move us forward, right? Third one, keep a low profile. This was something that my dad taught and spoke to me quite often. That served me well when I was younger. However, it does not serve us well in today's world, because we cannot keep a low profile and be on social media and be in real life and be seeking to serve the people that we serve, right? The fourth one, stay in your lane. Well, this is the really the only one that I think, still pertains today, because when we're super clear on the right people that we're going to help in the right rooms, it is important that we stay in our lane. Like, we can have different verticals, but you can't have too wide of a gap. Like, for instance, we're helping leaders to implement AI and automation into their businesses so that they can be heard, they can get seen, and they can increase their revenue and recognition. However, we wouldn't want to like go, two lanes over and be, having coaching programs for mindset. Okay. Like, you will hear me talk about it from time to time. And I do have coaches that I tap into if there are clients that are looking to, do some of that work. But that is not what we do in our lane. However, if I didn't acknowledge how it relates to visibility, I would be remiss and I would not be fully serving you, because this is something I feel very passionate about, how some of the things we learned growing up are not serving us well today. The next one is, don't get too big for your britches. And, I've never worn britches per se, but I think we all know what that means. Don't get too confident, don't get too sure of yourself. But in reality, we do need to be confident in what we're doing. And we get that confidence by doing what it is we do, right? It's not like all of a sudden we get this beam of light and we're fully confident, because you will have waves of times when you are more confident than others. And then, you kind of tap into yourself and you know what you need to do, maybe what you need to revisit, from a standpoint of being grateful, to be reminded of the skills and the value that you bring to your people, right? And then this last one, for this point number one that we were talking about, is, just work hard and someone will notice. And, this I feel was something that, my dad really learned, but he was in a very special circumstance, because he retired from a local gas company in Wheeling, West Virginia, and he did not want to go into management. So, he kept his head down. He just worked, focused on serving the community, but he had no aspirations to go into management. He always told me that was too much responsibility for him, but I thought it was good that he knew himself well enough to know that. What he decided to do was to do like moonlighting, so to speak, where he invested in properties and he was a landlord so he could supplement his income. Okay. And, I mentioned that because, that part, like, worked for him. Like, he wasn't really looking for someone else to notice to promote him to management, because he didn't want to be in management. All right. But many of the leaders that we've worked with and business owners that we've worked with since 2014, if they have that mindset, like, I'm just going to work hard and keep my head down and someone will notice, that it does not work well. That is definitely a belief that needs to be expired, because it is not anyone else's responsibility to notice you. You in your business, whether you're aspiring to climb the corporate ladder or you're looking to increase your business revenue, it is up to you and your team to get in front of the right people in the right rooms. That's super, super important. And if you've heard me speak about this before, you know that The Field of Dreams is a movie, and we don't live in a field of dreams. It's a great movie, awesome lessons, love Kevin Costner in it. It is just a delightful movie. It teaches so many great lessons. But if we build it, chances are people will not come unless we invite them. And there might be peaks and valleys with that too, right? So we have to be able to consistently, stay in front of the right people in the right rooms, consistently have, be building our pipeline of business so that we can have a sustainable, growing business. Okay. So these beliefs, like what protected you or what made you feel safe as a child, can limit you as a leader. Point number 2, humility and being humble is not about hiding. We can still be humble and be visible. Many talented songwriters have written about it and sung about it. And, we can still be humble. We can be generous. We can be grateful. And hopefully, we're all still very teachable. But we have to make it easy for people to discover our work. We have to make it easy for them to know how we can solve their problems, how we can answer those questions in their heads that they haven't even spoken yet. That's how they know that we're connected. So, visibility isn't about making yourself, oh, look at me, look how important I am. It's about making your work and the problems you solve easier to find. Because I can tell you that at the end of the day, it's not about you, it's not about me, right? If we're service providers, it's clearly about the people and the audience that we serve. All right, point number 3. Human leadership matters more than ever now in the age of AI and the age of technology, right? And, we all know that there isn't a shortage of information. We all know that AI can help us create content, can help us map out workflows, can help us, summarize information. We have so many tools available at our fingertips, right? But AI cannot replace human wisdom. AI cannot replace human discernment or the compassion or the trust. And it's important that we realize in the age of AI and technology that AI is meant to amplify what's working, right? It can also magnify what isn't, and it can cause a lot of problems. So when we do business audits with AI, sometimes we go into businesses that have already tried to implement AI, but it wasn't working right. Sometimes we go into businesses who haven't yet really, committed or dove into AI. They may be resisting it a little bit, but the technology is really meant, when it's done right, to amplify what's working, right? To allow more of the team and more of the business to be heard and seen. But it can also magnify what isn't working. So we need to be, super mindful of that and make sure that we get things working in the right way, that we have the appropriate workflows, and then we can use technology in the right places as long as we have it architected properly. So the more advances, that technology, the more advanced that technology becomes, the more valuable our human to human, person to person connection is, because that's something that's irreplaceable. And it's amazing because, right, with technology, we can be in the same room with a client or with a business partner or collaborator, somebody that lives, that's like 15 hours ahead in our future, right? In Australia or in New Zealand. We could be meeting with somebody in Amsterdam. We can be in the UK. So technology is wonderful. We're living at a great time, right? But we have to make sure that we're still nurturing those relationships and that we're always looking to bring more people into our potential audience. Because otherwise you're going to have peaks and valleys in your business. And same, if you're building a corporate career, you have to always be making sure you're identifying, the next level up, and what skill sets do you need to work on to get to that next level up, right? So I also just want to say, before we close this out, that while it's wonderful that we can get together, with technology and meet, we also should be doing in real life meetups. That's super important, more important now than ever, because we can actually hug someone, we can shake their hands. It doesn't have to be virtual. I'm committed to doing my first in real life event this year. I'm targeting September. So I'll be letting local people around the Chicagoland area know what that is. And hopefully, if you're in the area, you can join us. But I do hope that the points that we covered today really encouraged you and made you think, because it could be, that some belief that you had as a child is keeping you or preventing you from being as visible as you would like, right? And if this did encourage you or inspire you to think, I would love to invite you to a private Zoom event that we're having next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. If you would like to join me, please DM me or send me a message and let me know. And I will make sure that you get an invite so you can save your seat. Okay. So know that you were built to be heard and you are meant to be seen. Do not let anyone sway you from that. It's super important. Do not allow a negative comment or, someone that is not being a fan of yours. Make sure that you know that you were built to be heard. Maybe it's just a question of how do you get in the right rooms with the right people, right? But all of those things can be fixed. Right? I just would like to encourage you and cheer you on to just, keep doing what you're doing, but be open to learning how you can incorporate maybe some new strategies, new tactics, maybe some technology right now. If we have everything else, that's flowing properly. But whatever it is, being open, because we all know that what got us to where we are today will not get us to where we want to be tomorrow, because we always have to be learning. We always have to be growing. And it's when we stop that, we get stalled. So remember, you were built to be heard. I am so grateful that you joined me today. Or if you're listening to this recording, I'd love to know your thoughts. Maybe drop a belief that you had as a child that you feel definitely needs to be expired today. So thank you for joining me today, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. We have a special guest, Dominic Vogel, will be joining us for the Built to be Heard series next Wednesday. Take care, everyone.